All that. Is everyone filled in their details? Collect them in for me then. Please. So just a couple of brief announcements. There's no fire alarm testing tonight. So if the fire alarm does go off, exits are just there, or the way in which we came in. The toilets are back out towards the front door. Male and female toilets are there. We're going to be making a start in a couple of minutes. We are endeavouring to finish at 8:30 because that's the time the room is booked until. There are people recording tonight's meeting. They are recording the meeting so you're not seen who's attending. So there's one there, and one over in the corner, getting the back of everybody's head. Is everybody okay with that?
Absolutely.
I love silence, because then you just haven't got a clue if there's a problem or not. But thank you for that. Great. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special urgent meeting of Lozells Community Forum. First thing, those who have not signed in, well, this is all I've got here, please do so. Absolutely important that we have your details, and that will become clearer tonight. We are governed by GDPR, meaning your details won't be passed to anybody else. Your details remain with us and us only. That's still not everyone who's in the room, is it? So those who haven't signed in, please, your cooperation will be greatly appreciated. Last thing I want is for someone to say, I went to a meeting and then I don't know what's happened. That's why we want your contact details so we can tell you what has happened since tonight's meeting. You know why we're here? We're here because of the escalation in violence within the locality. For the past 12 months, every time we have a Lozells Community Forum meeting, we talk about particularly the issues at the top end of Lozells Road into Villa Road and Hunters Road. When the one-way system was put in, we criticised why Hunters Road, anyone coming up on Hunters Road can't go into Barker Street. So you're forced, well, not quite, most people still drive down Barker Street. But the point is you are forced to go up Hunters Road. I made the comment then publicly, it was in the media, that junction at Hunters Road is not the safest place for a motorist to be going to turn their car. We know there are vulnerable people that are living in Hunters Road as well, and we know a lot of people hang out on the corner of Hunters Road. Unfortunately and sadly, over the past 3 months, we have seen issues within Hunters Road, particularly where one person has been killed following a fight between two groups of people. I'll point out as well, I'm 58, so when we talk about young people, we're not talking about kids here, because some people who have been killed, police here, I'm sure they'll confirm, not everyone was a teenager who has been injured in that vicinity. We then have someone who was shot, and then we had another stabbing. We walked, myself and the secretary, we walked Villa Road into Villa Road and Lozells Road on Saturday, and someone, lo and behold, was stabbed again on Sunday. But this type of violence is not unusual for Lozells, particularly over the last 20 years. However, the cycle quietens down for a while, doesn't it? Everyone who lives here. It quietens down a little bit, and then it rears its head. Tonight, I'm not personally here to talk about what's been in the media, to talk about what isn't in the media. What isn't in the media are people going to church, a New Testament church of God, and whilst they're in church worshipping, the cars are broken into. That leads to great attention within the vicinity. People getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning going to buy cider leads to antisocial behaviour, and before you know it, Bob's your uncle, they start fighting. And as you know, no one wants to hurt their fists anymore, so they use weapons. That's the reality. In addition to that, the drug dealing that goes on in the vicinity. Sadly, with the increase in HMOs, we know many of these people, sadly, HMOs do have habits. And remember, their drugs are delivered. Not saying anything out of turn, I'm not snitching, it's something that we all know. You live in the area, you know what happens. The point is, they're delivered, before you know it, one thing leads to another, it escalates into something else. When this type of thing happens, many people forget the people in the community that have to say, I live in Lozells, or Newtown, or Aston for that matter. But this is a Lozells meeting. People have to say, I live in Lozells. And they say, oh, it's a bad area down there, isn't it? Oh, don't go down to Lozells, you'll get stabbed. Don't go to Lozells, you'll get killed. Don't go to the church in Hunters Road, because when you come back out, there could be a bullet flying. That is the reality that people have to put up with. That's the reality children have to put up with going to school, be it St. Francis, be it Hope, be it Anglesey. They have to put up with that reality. There is no more outrage even amongst children when they hear that people have been killed, people have been stabbed, people have been shot. There is no outrage. Would you agree with me? Outrage meaning it's wrong. There's outrage because it's happened, but there is no outrage about the whole thing. It's just waters down to the degree where now it becomes a part of the way in life in this area. So tonight, I'd like to welcome our local MP, Ayub Khan, who is here, and also Inspector Robinson, Chief Inspector Robinson, let's get it right, from West Midlands Police. Police and Crime Commissioner was invited this evening. He has a pre-arranged event. He's told me what it is, and he gives his apology. However, he has asked me to report back any contents of tonight's meeting to him, and he's quite happy to meet him and discuss that. We did invite the Chief Constable, but I think between them and the local inspectors, we've got Chief Inspector Robinson here. However, please don't take this the wrong way. We would have rather seen the Chief Constable, because we want the purse strings to be pulled to prioritise policing in Lozells. That's one of the most important things. But you are here, and I'm sure that you will be reporting back to them whatever is said tonight. We invited Councillor Mahmood Hussain, who is the councillor for the other side of Villa Road, because Villa Road is split down the middle. One side's Lozells, one side is Birchfield. He said he had a pre-arranged meeting. We've checked, we understand that the Labour group have a budget meeting tonight. Is that right? Is that right? That's what we understand. So he had a pre-arranged meeting. We invited your local councillor, Councillor Zafar, who has not responded. He had an email off me today saying, basically, if you care, you will attend. It's as simple as that. I'm not here to pull punches anymore. At the end of the day, it's all well and good us say, it's all well and good us who are activists in the area, politicians in the area, police officers in the area giving excuses. Stop. It doesn't help the people who have lost a loved one. It doesn't help people who have had life-changing incidences happen in their life. It doesn't help the children going to school, does it? It doesn't help the family sitting down and worrying, is so-and-so on the bus, what's going to happen to them when they get off the bus? It doesn't help people living in terror. It doesn't help the person who goes into church and comes back out and the car's been damaged. It doesn't help people going to church and wondering if someone walks out of church, will there be a fight? Will they become collateral damage? I'm going to be blunt tonight. The people really care, the authorities really care about Black and Asian people living in the city areas in Birmingham. Think about it. We've bothered to call this meeting publicly tonight. There's been 2 other meetings held in Lozells with special invitations. This one's just open. When we walked along Villa Road on Saturday, shopkeepers were saying they're actually frightened to go in. We've got a shopkeeper who locks his door at 3:45 every day because he doesn't know he's going to come in, so people can't get in unless he unlocks the door. How on earth can you run a business if you're going to be filtering people in and out your shop? Shops you're supposed to just walk in. People saying, I opened up today, I had no trade at all because the road's dead. But then you've got the ones who hang outside the shop, where the shopkeepers themselves are frightened even to go out and say to them, move on. But then we've got the people hang outside the shop complaining to us that their mate got stabbed the night before, which has not been reported in the media. Because not everything that happens is reported in the media. Now I'm going to leave it there. I just want you to know that I'm here because I care. I've been around far too long now. I'm getting too many grey hairs. And it feels like Groundhog Day because of yet another meeting. However, tonight, here are the rules. Simple rules. Don't get angry. Speak with respect. We're not bashing the police. And there's a reason. And anyone knows, anyone who can bash the police, I'm one of the greatest people to bash the police. However, we want to ensure that we demand resources from the paymasters into Lozells to increase community safety. We have our local MP here. I am sure he's more than capable. I've known him a long time, but forget that. Tonight, I'm sure he will take anything and do what it takes to argue for this area. So tonight, what we want to do is this. We want to hear from you. We want to hear some points. I myself, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to write down, make notes of what you say, not full notes, the key points, okay? Right, and once you do that, this part of this meeting tonight, it's now 7:23. We're going to give it until 10 to 8, whereby we hear what you've got to say. If we need to go a bit longer, we'll do that. We'll make a note of everything that you have to say. Following on from that, I'll then ask Inspector Robinson to give not answers, just a brief response. Agreed?
Yes.
And we'll ask our MP to give a brief response as well to what you say. Are we all agreed with that? Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Then what will happen is this. Whatever notes I make tonight, that will be formed into a report next week, and that will be sent into the authorities. And that will include the police, that will include the Police and Crime Commissioner as well. And what we're prepared to do is to work with our local MP. I am fortunate in a position through some other work I do to get access to the Home Secretary, and also I'm sure that our local MP would be prepared to campaign for that as well. So it's important that you make your points and you make your points clearly. So on that note, who's first? Lady in the pink and then you, Ray.
My name's Colin.
Do me one favour. Do me one favour. If you stand up and face that way, they'll hear you better.
Right, my name's Colin McLeod, and I'm from Festival of Faith. You've probably seen these flyers all over the place. That's been my life drive event. Now, what I would suggest is, why don't you go to school and do this and demonstrate the kids, demonstrate what's the legality of no firing lights, what needs to be done. If you get them early and get them young, they'll understand a bit more. Because I've got a program together which I can give it to you free of charge to go into schools. Because I go into schools, and you have to demonstrate the knowledge to these students from a very early age. It's about talking now and showing them what to do, how to stop bleeds, how to work bleed kits, how to have conflict resolution. That's what it's about, talking now. I don't live in the area, but I work for the area. I'm around this area a lot. You've probably seen my face before. I've never lived in this area, but I've been fighting this area for over 30 years. And I don't live here. My children don't live here. My grandkids don't live here. But I'm helping you all. So when I have a festival, please come along. I'm working alongside you. I don't want to work for you. I want to work alongside you. Because this is your community, not mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, might as well let the commissioners stay at home. It's going to make an excuse that basically you don't have any money. yeah, come to the meeting. If we're gonna have to police our community, like I think the government, state local government's gonna do, we need a bridge for the youngsters, like 14 to 18-year-old, reach them to work them into way of life. I mean, to get their first jobs, to face racism, whatever, because they're gonna face racism with the company happening, so there's no hiding it. It's just basically finding solutions for progressing from the 14-year-olds to the 18-year-olds to transmit what's coming up in the future, because most of all what's happening is all youngsters will probably be younger, 11 years old. So that's all I really have to say so far. It's just reach the gap and whatnot. And don't let anybody make an excuse on saying you don't have any money. If they can raise up £1 billion in debt, they can raise another 2 billion in debt. So there's no excuse anymore. Thank you.
Can I just clarify that point? Are you saying, because I'm just summarising it, money is an excuse and not a reality?
That's right. That's right.
Who's next? There's yourself and then the lady with the glasses. Oh.
Can I say something? I've been in Singapore. Issue I have
Shut up. You should just face that way and speak up as loud as you can.
okay, when it started, yes,
Yes?
yes, after all policy years, all years, policy only had around it. So there's nothing that I'm not seeing in this area, and things are coming back around. Over the years, we've had councillors and we have MP for this area down. Everybody is not there, abandoned the area, and the only time they seem to get outcry is when something that's, I would say, is natural around this area, even around here. One might look and say, well, we need to deal with things there around here, but stop being going crime is not just about you, it's just about what the street is doing at the moment, right? Yeah? And what we need now is council not empty words. And what we need is not people who, yeah, I'm not talking about everybody who's good, but when you live here, you've got to sleep here. You know, we don't, I remember in COVID, a lot of the people who showed their goodwill couldn't even come into the area, right? Yeah? So, really and truly, it comes down to resources, simple. I'm not knocking the police like you say, but they seem to come to sleep. I mean, there's not even a police station around here now. But the reality is not right. So they've abandoned the area. The councillors abandoned the area. So it's just coming back to what I've seen in 40 years. I've seen all the three words. I've seen this place burn down 3 times. I'm not suggesting that's going to happen. But when things get desperate, you never know what can happen. So it is time that the talking, especially from the councillors, and I work for Birmingham City Council, stop and say, well, look, yeah, the area needs investing. It's, you know, I was stand here, I'm not taking much of this time, I was stand here, and I remember in this, oh God, this summer, we had a great achievement in the Hansworth Park. Hansworth Park Football is the only place in Hansworth where black and Asian sit together in a goal, yeah? If you come there, the play could be the in the Birmingham League, and you know what? Nobody wanted to know. Nobody wanted to know when these guys have got into the Birmingham League and can put a good face. But you know what? It's not what handles the right thing. So, you know, let's say focus right and not exercise don't work for me. So I'm not gonna take the meeting. So at the end of the day, it's about putting the good face what we have. As I say, good people say nothing, but bad things will happen, and that's what's been happening.
The area is not about these things. The perception.
The perception is not
Yeah.
about
Okay.
they don't invest in good things.
Hi, I'm from Rurak City Church, and we're based in Winters Road. Just like what this guy said, Trevor, I've been in this area for over 40 odd years. I've lived here, I've worked here as a community psychiatric nurse in the crisis team for a number of years, and I go to church here from the 90s, and we are based in Winters Road. There's so many things that we've seen happen. I've also been a street pastor, so when we had a lot of the gang wars and things, they formed the street pastors in Lozells, and I was a part of that team that had to go out. And then that phased out after a while. So it's like you see like phases, waves come, something happens, then they try and do something small, and then the resources go, and then it's left. I've got more questions as well. So in relation to resources, especially from the council, we are seeing an increasing of homeless people. We're seeing an increasing of HMOs. I'm aware now that we're going to be having a service of homeless people for 139 beds, which will be closing because the council refused to fund it anymore. So we're going to have 139 homeless people at the 30th of November, going to be homeless, and it's just on the outside of, that's on the outskirts of town, coming into our area. What's going to happen there? This is resources that has been given up by the city council. So that's going to bring even more things into the area. On Hunters Road, we've spoken already, I'm not going to go over it as Desmond said. We've seen murders, we've seen stabbings, we've seen shooting, we've seen people coming into the church intoxicated, we've seen prostitution taking place outside the doors. The police don't come in and speak to us. We've called the police so many times and things, and they say they will contact us back. I have personally called the police. I have personally sent emails, and they respond back the following day when everything has been, which is gone, asking us questions and then asking us for information on when the things resolved and expecting us to deal with it. When we've had times where our entrance to our buildings been blocked by vans and different things, and we've said this is a fire risk, we've been told, well, just lock yourself in or something when the gates are closed. The police do not come and speak to us. So, there's a lot of things happening, and I just think when we hear about it in the media, it's perceived that we need to do something about it, but we really do need to do something about it. We're taking the resources out, we're closing down buildings, lighthouse, all different places. What are we having in place? Yeah, so there's no communication, decisions are being made, and we're not being involved. Ballards are being put up outside our church, no one spoke to any of us in our building, but just put all the ballards up outside the front of the road. Who did you contact? Who did you speak to? So I've got questions.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm a Tesco boy. I'm the founder of the Women CRC, and I believe it's all about intervention. I provide like bespoke programs to the youth. So we do like knife crime workshops, anger management, problem solving, work ethics. It's just about like counseling them and bringing them to a point where they've got a positive in their life, and bridging that gap where people like me coming from like the community of it's been like I've seen a lot of what's going on, and definitely come to a thing where I see that I can do something about it. So I've created this program for 11 to 19-year-olds. We're teaching them work ethics, teaching them about life crime, teaching them about anger management, emotional regulation. These are the things that they need to move forward and be independent, positive members of our community, more positive influence like me, my age, young diverse men, bridge the gap for the younger generation.
Anybody else? I really want to hear from residents and the issues that they face. So, gentlemen here first, and then Governor.
I've been in this area for about 58 years.
Right, stop a minute. I'm going to let that one go, but this is our meeting, so in future, anyone wants to hand anything out, I'm the chair, ask my permission.
Oh,
first.
sorry, my apologies.
It's order. But please carry on, so I'm not stopping anyone from doing that.
I lived in this area for 58 years. I have seen a lot of changes in this area. Changes not for better, but for worse. You know, in 67, I used to see police coming on the bicycles, and only people used to have cars were the detectives. But these days now, I don't see a lot of police in the residential areas walking about, especially on murder in Villa Road. I would like to see more police in the area at present. But I can't see Lozells getting any better, but I can see it's getting worse and worse. Sometimes my family does tell me to move from the area. It's not good enough. Because my parents was here, I lived here, I went to school here, I love this area, and I don't want to move out of this area, no matter what happens. I believe that one day we're gonna go. If I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go. But I'm not fear of anybody. But I like to see more police in the area. The cuts made by the governments, you know. I'm glad to see that OMP is here. I would like to thank you for, coming here. Where you can bring some resources, money in the area. Very nice. So more police in the area is very important. But few years we've seen the cuts from the Tory government. That's how we can get more police in the area.
Hi everyone. We see clients go really causing an increase in the crime. Also, what are the restrictions in place? Are the previous stages of and another thing was that I think you got information that was the cause of increasing violence in the area. I think the other thing that I face myself is I'm not very walks. So I find one side is really dangerous. Especially on the side. Yeah, one side. You can't walk somewhere. Well, I was not going.
What road is that? Soho Road?
No,
Villa Road?
you're not church side.
Oh, the right hand side where the Tennessee fried chicken is.
Yes.
Okay.
On that pavement, there's a space station. The main remarks I need, and the main comments I need, I think that area is like, and what I want to go to Japanese culture, I want to live in, but I think we've got much like this system, and it just continues leaking, smoking. I think it's a shame, because we live in that area, and we take up the nephews. This is put the exact church in the last one. It is with the top church in the last one. It is, it's put the exact I don't know why such a problem. How we provision of it. You can't really walk along there. You go on the parks as well. Again, we need to expand as well, White House and the other. Basically, what's left to do.
I missed this. Did someone mention prostitution? Yeah. Who's next? Yes, you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Outside the church. Yeah. Great.
Well, I've lived here for 38 years. I've seen people come and go, people change. In the last 3 months, we've had a lot of serious incidents, and that's how we reported, not even the non-reported ones. How long is it going to take before we get proper police presence here?
Right, next. Nobody?
I'll take over this.
What's press it? I don't live in Lozells, but I pass through it twice a day. My son goes to a local school, and I make sure I pick him up, drop him off at school. In the morning, as I'm travelling down Lozells and Villa Road, it's quite peaceful. People are going about their jobs, going about getting to work. But it's complete opposite during the school time as you're travelling along. I think people have lost respect for each other. There's people double parking just to talk to people on the streets. There's lorries, people parking on zigzags on zebra crossings. There's ladies and families with children who are struggling to get across the zebra crossing because they can't see up and down the road. And in all the time that I've been travelling up and down Lozells and Aston Villa Road, the only time I've seen a policeman or police officers is when there was that incident, is it the murder on there? And that is the only time I've seen a police during that time. Okay. Now that's an observation from an outsider passing through twice a day. Okay.
Anybody?
Sorry, I think another thing was that when we had the community policing doing the regular walks, we got to know the community officers, well, I did anyway, and they would communicate with us on a regular basis, and there wasn't as much crime. But I think now, because we don't get the community police officers that are walking regularly, the crime is increasing. And plus, we had a good relationship with the local community police officers. They would regularly ask us as well. So I think it's the cutbacks again.
We're talking about the disappearance of the community.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, do you remember we had community police officers that were allocated?
Right. Yeah.
And there were certain named officers that used to regularly to communicate with us. That's it, yeah, Nigel, yeah, the rest of them.
Okay.
And I think they knew the regular faces as well, so they'd approach us and ask us on a regular basis, saying, have you seen anything change? And they built good relationships, and I think it helped.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anyone, anything else? No? Lady there. Can I just say this? It's important if you've got an opinion. I just need to encourage people to speak up, okay? There is no silly opinion. What may be a priority to you is not necessarily a priority or concern to me. But we're here to listen to you. So please just don't sit there and go home and say, I should have. Do it so that we know, so we can collate it and tell them about it. All right? So lady there, please.
Yeah, I don't actually live in the area. I go to church in the area. But in the area that I work, I do deal with the police officers and councillors. And I find that they tend to work closely with the residents, and there's a lot of pride in the area. In this particular area, what I'm seeing is a lot of rubbish, vermin, and all kinds of things that it's like people have not taken the pride in their area. And I think that, I know it's different to, the crime we're talking about, but I think that is an important part too. So is it that this area has been neglected by the city, the bin men, the cleanliness of the area? Is it being neglected? Because the other areas I work, I'm not seeing that. So is it that this particular area has been neglected, and that's not going to help the situation at all?
We're coming up to 10 to 8, so we've got another couple of minutes on this. Anyone else?
Can I just echo that lady there? In the morning, there's quite a few street cleaners, and they're all busy picking up the rubbish, probably from the night before. But they've got happy faces. I too, to must say hello to them. And yeah, but they're working hard in the morning.
They probably miss Hunter's Road then, because there's a whole pile of rubbish been there that looks like it's been there for weeks.
Can I just say that basically I don't want to walk away.
Sorry, one second. Someone said something about rubbish in Hunters Road. What was it?
The gentleman was talking about, it's like, I've got to be
Sorry,
mad.
you know,
I've got to be mad, yeah. The gentleman was talking about, which I'm sure there is, cleanliness, some of the street cleaners. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, Hunters Road, I don't know about anywhere else. It's like everybody used that as the tipping ground, and it's been like that for weeks.
Yes, darling.
Maybe years, yeah.
Okay, right. Right, and then,
No, I'll let you.
go on, Dorothy.
Yeah, just to echo what Jenny's saying as well. There's by George Street as well. There's been a lot of rubbish tipping up there, and it's just past 2 years. So we want to know who's moving into the area. Why you get all this rubbish just tipped where it wasn't there before? And obviously now the problem is, I mean, I was coming from Urak on Sunday, and then couldn't come down there because of this what took place on Sunday. I mean, it was something to 5, even though it's dark. So what we want to ask as well is why there's so much 24-hour shops opening in vulnerable areas, and that's what's causing a lot of it as well. So if the shopkeepers are complaining, then they should talk to the other colleagues who's next door to them. Why have you got the 24-hour shop open? That's causing vulnerable people at night to hang around, do what they need to do. So again, the pride in the area. People are out here tonight because I don't live in in Lozells. I'm just down the road in Aston. But at the same time, people are here because they love their area. It makes you, when this gentleman said, I love my area. I mean, people say, I live in Aston. I love Aston, so I'm there. So really, at the end of the day, people like yourself and other people, we love these areas. We grew up in there. And it's, because unfortunately, obviously the sources and a lot of places have been closed down. And now if the community centres goes, where are the young people going to go on the street? So really, yeah, but it's not as easy as that because, you know what I mean, a lot of things happen. But in the army as well, unfortunately. So there is a need, but again, who is going to step in and say enough is enough? Well, we're here tonight to say enough is enough. People are saying we've had enough. The churches, the mosque, normal business people. So hopefully something good can come out of this meeting because as you just said, Jen, other areas, I've got other areas. I don't see this going on. So obviously resources have been pulled out of these, our community, unfortunately. But yeah, that's it.
Good evening, everybody. I'm from over the other side of Lozells, more Newtown side. One of the things that I find it's the community, the residents that live in the area. That's where you need to start getting your neighbours, getting the support of everybody that lives around you, because collectively we can speak together because people are in fear of their lives. But if you don't speak to your neighbours and somebody's getting shot down the road, somebody will see, but nobody's going to talk. So you need the community and the residents to come together, like where we live over by us. All our residents come together, and we do have problems, but we don't have as much now because Burberry Park, where I am, used to be a really bad hot spot. But since we've all got together, you look out for me, I look out for you, and you stick together. So we know there's a lot of diverse communities together, but it's you engaging with me engaging with you. Yes, the police and everybody's got to do it, but we are the grassroots. We live on the streets, and if we can't own our streets, we can't expect the PC and his sergeants. Yes, resources are cut, but if we come together, you watch my house, I watch your house, we all get together, get our community back together, be our own marshals, and say, get out, and we don't want you here. That's where I think it starts from. Thank you.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to come together. It's not just the community because we paid resources, we pay our taxes, so they need to use our money wisely. Just to add on to what Dorothy was saying,
Hang on,
yeah.
step it down so I can hear to write
Okay,
down.
so I just wanted to add on that last point when Dorothy was talking about Hunters Road, the car park at the end, just before you come to the end of the road. It was, so I think you've got a car park and then you've also got a car business. Yeah, so part of it is a car park and it's the council car park that's been abandoned. So you've got cars in there that's been abandoned and that's where a lot of the drugs and stuff are taking place. And if you do find a parking spot to park, you're going to park at your own risk because your car will be broken into, or you'll find somebody taking drugs sitting down, laid out behind your car. So that car park is a council car park and that needs to be looked after and monitored as well.
Okay. The gentleman over there. And then you, Ray.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. So I think it's important to remember that the cost of prevention of crime is far cheaper than when a crime occurs. So actually, the resource question is really important that we understand that. The other issue I want to talk about is the data that you have. So we talk about Handsworth, Lozells, wherever. Are we clear that these criminals are from within the area? So it's important to know where were they coming from. They may be our neighbours, and that may well be true. And the final point is around community policing. So I pastor a church on New Inn Road, and I can tell you where the drug dealers live. And if you were walking on the streets like I do 2 or 3 times a week, you would know where they live as well. It's really important that we identify who these people are.
Right?
Well, to me, it goes along the lines of people's attitude in the area. It only takes a small percentage of people to take care of the area. But usually when you approach these people, it's usually, oh, I got somebody to take it up for me. In my country, I have somebody to take it up and whatnot. Or Birmingham is a whole. These are the attitudes you have to face up to when you have to front these litterers, bulk wasters or whatnot. Also, we still can't go along the lines of we still need authorities in the area, like police, but majority of it is government. The way that they basically, the attitudes of areas like this, like for instance, like the election, we had a first independent councillor. The only thing what the Birmingham City Council can do is to shrug their shoulders and thinking that people will vote for Labour again. So it goes along the lines of change your attitude, change your vote, get something done. But at the end of the day, we do need authorities like the police. But I know that you're wide, your solicitors, your carers, your whatever. But the majority of it is the city council. The attitude's got to change when they hear words like Handsworth, Aston, Lozells. That's all I have to say. It's just basically the attitude's got to change.
I think you're absolutely correct because I'm 63 years old, young man, and I've seen a lot. Now, as far as I'm concerned, you are correct. It's about the community. You have to work together to look after your own community. Simple as that. Thank you. That's all I've got to say. You are absolutely spot on.
Gentleman there first, and
Thank
then
All right.
final point will be Trevor, and then we go to some responses.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Washington. I'm a pastor at Pilgrim Church here in Birmingham. I noticed something that happened on the 7th of this month along Lozells Road, whereby there were 2 people who were really fighting. It was a very bad fight along there until one fell in front of the bus that was moving. The bus has to screech to put on hold, not to crush the guy. And then the people who were witnessing, they called the police. Police came. After 5 minutes, 2 police cars arrived. But what surprised me is that people knew where these guys were, but they protected them and hid them Yet the police was there and was asking what was happening. Nobody was willing to bring them out because they hid them. So as much as we are seeking for solution, it takes a teamwork like what my friend has said here. And because when the police came there, and it was very, very serious, everybody was witnessing, the guy just entered a shop and people started to scatter when the police was coming. So there was nothing police could have done. And I don't think our police officers are comfortable coming to a place all the time. They're being called and there's nothing at the end of the day because these guys were being hidden. I'm going to my second point. So what I'm talking about, we have to work together to solve this problem. I'm going to my second point that that gentleman has raised, who has given us the papers here. We had the same problem in Botswana and in Kenya, where I come from. And when we were there, in Botswana, they were having a problem with these gangs and all that. So I was called to also do the interview for how can we solve the problem of the youth. And majority of people were thinking youth need to be kept busy, football, this and that. And it was done. But it didn't change them, because to change a human being, it has to be an internal thing. So part of the solution that I would encourage is what will help us in Botswana was to develop what was called character-based education. And it really penetrated well in Botswana, and it really penetrated well in Kenya, and it changed a lot of communities, and the crime level in Botswana fell to around 60% within a period of 4 months. And it was such a great achievement, which they appreciated a lot. So I think we need much more now to change the character of these people, of our friends around here, the young people around here. It has to be internal, not only keeping people busy. People already have phones. They are so busy that even you yourself, you know how phone keeps people busy. So it has to be an internal thing, a true change, which I believe in character education. That is when we can be able to help also solve the problem within our community. Thank you.
Yeah, what I really want to say on this point is, right, yeah, we've allowed Hansworth, right, and the boundary changes and all to that. We fall into the postcode, oh yeah. I see one Hansworth. Anything that happened at Lozells, the same thing at Villa Road. People don't just live in spaces and we come in. It's got to get back to one Hansworth. We've created a postcode no different from the gangs. I hear Lozells, Villa Road, Soho Road. No, there's one Hansworth that I live in. Yeah, and we've got to get that unity back and realize that, right? Yeah, the community has totally changed. We don't know one another's anymore. It's not as simple as that. The HMOs have destroyed the whole areas. We've had different communities come in, right? No one know who is who, and everyone is in their corner. And like I said, you know, and with the police abandoning Hansworth and the council abandoning Hansworth, yeah, we live in the streets to the guys on the street, and that's what I want to say. We need one Hansworth.
So thank you very much, everybody, for saying what you have to say. One little piece of education for everybody: in 2016, when David Thompson became the chief constable, we had an action group going in Lozells, and we talked about intervention from 5-year-olds, talked about conflict resolution. We had a plan for this. We had a plan. That plan still exists. I've got the plan because myself and some other ministers, believe it or not, came up with it. It got shelved because of them police and crime commissioner disliked me. That's the truth. And I will say that here openly. We didn't get on. And he tried to destroy our plan to the point where he banned me from Lloyd House for 4 years. A black man being banned from a police station, that takes some doing. They normally want to keep us in. But the point is that I am making is that community needs to be strong. Community needs to be tough. Community cannot just say, oh, if we had a police and crime commissioner here, how many people would say it's a privilege to have him here? He's actually apologized immensely for not being able to be here because he said to me, if I had nothing in the diary, I would have been there. You know that. The point is this, we have got some people who see it as their duty. That's the difference. It's their duty to serve us. And it's not, that's why I said, I'm not here to bash police. It's the authorities. You've talked about authoritarian, the disconnect with the authorities. Areas like this, where you take it for granted, that actually is what happens. But on that note, I just wanted to tell you about that because there was a plan. I'm not saying, would we be where we are today? We'll never know because it was never tried. But I'm glad that our lady here in pink, got your name now.
Everyone knows Miss Queenie.
So our lady here, Queenie, she is right. And it's amazing that almost 10 years on, we're saying the same thing that we were talking about 10 years ago. So that tells you that nothing has changed and there's been no improvement. But I'm going to ask Inspector Robinson, Chief Inspector Robinson, please respond first, and then we'll ask our MP. Yep.
Brilliant. Firstly, thank you very much for having me here today. It's always a real sort of privilege to actually hear the concerns of the local community, and it's a real fundamental part of my role is really to understand the problems that go on. So, first of all, just thank you for sharing your openness, your honesty. It is very impactful for someone like myself, who are relatively new to this role in terms of local policing, to actually hear the concerns and the experiences that you live on a daily basis. So thank you. Just by way of introduction, I'm Chief Inspector Tim Robinson. My responsibility is Birmingham West local policing, so that is from the south of Northfield up through to the Perry Barr constituency, including Lozells and Handsworth. So it is my day job, as Dr. Jadu said, it's my day job is to serve the community and actually invest the policing resources where they are most needed. So I've received a very clear message today around visibility of policing and the lack of it. So I certainly will take that away. But I would start off by saying my vision around policing should be a fundamental part of the community. We don't exist as a separate entity. We are effectively going back to the Pelian principles of police are civilians in uniform. We're people who come to work to serve the public, and we are there to serve every single one of you. So there was a comment earlier around, do the authorities and the police, do we care about inner city Black and Asian communities? The simple answer is yes, 100%. And I can give you that assurance. There is no difference in when I come to work to look at different areas of Birmingham to go, where do I put policing? It's all about the service of the communities and where we need to be. But we do need to be part of that community because it should go hand in hand, because policing ultimately are just civilians in uniform. West Mids Police has got a very clear mandate around, we are an organisation that has to work for local people. Our new Chief Constable, as well, you say new, he's been in post for 18 months now. I think he summed it up quite well with West Midlands Police, is that we did the big things very well, party conferences, big football matches, large-scale operations, but fundamentally we weren't delivering at a local level, and he's commenced or has taken the whole organisation through a whole raft of changes that are delivering for local people now. I do appreciate stats can always be skewed, but the recent stats will say that actually West Midlands Police is one of the best improving police forces because of the changes that we've done, which are all about local policing and making sure that all of our structures are designed around local geographies, local accountability. Year to date, we had 30,000 fewer victims of crime across all of West Midlands Police. So that's a reduction of about 10% across all of West Midlands Police. Before I came here today, I looked at Lozells and East Handsworth data, and it would show a reduction in crime. But I would never be so naive to tell you that crime is going down, because I absolutely hear what you're saying, sir, in terms of you're a resident and you're feeling it's getting worse. And that's the thing that I have to take away from here, is that actually data will tell me one thing, but local perception is telling me something else. And actually what we have there is probably a huge amount of underreported crime. And what isn't coming into my statistics, it's what you're seeing on a daily basis outside of your church. It's things that we do need to get on top of. And so my first challenge, and I do appreciate that you've called the police and not received a good service, and I can only ever apologise that you've called us and we haven't been there for you. But what I would always say is fill my call centres with more calls. I want to hear about everything. I want to create that data to really drive that response, because that's where we will start to push as much resources as we can do into the problems. What I would say is I sat in a community meeting here 3 weeks ago where, again, I received some really powerful feedback from the community that we weren't doing the job. And I did make a promise there around I would do everything I could to make sure that we pushed as much resources from West Midlands Police into this area to deal with the serious incidents of violence. Rob is one of the coordinators who works for Perry Bar. Gemma is the local Lozells sergeant. Every week they are bidding at a force level to get specialist resource and capability to enhance the local officers who do have to deal with a huge amount of demand. I don't want to sit here and make excuses, but policing is an incredibly complex landscape now. And I think some comments around actually, have we withdrawn from community policing? We absolutely haven't. We've got a real investment within an organisational level to make sure that community policing is as ring-fenced as it can be and completely dedicated, but it has been a challenge at times, and I would never sit here and say that we've got it 100% right, but actually you should know who your local police officers are, and that you do have those personal relationships. What I can tell you, in the last 3 weeks, we have put in over 150 hours of additional patrol hours into the area. That's from our traffic, our armed response schools, our operational support unit, on top of significant investment from local neighbourhood teams, who I do know work very hard on a daily basis to try and make life better for everyone here and deal with crime issues. But they are single figures on the teams. It's been my commitment for a long time to make sure that those teams are up to strength. That has been a challenge for us, but I continue to push at weekly meetings into our workforce to make sure actually this area in terms of Lozells and Handsworth are getting the resources it needs, and the teams are as resourced they should be. But with that additionality, we have made over the last 3 weeks an additional 20 arrests from what we'd normally see. We have done over 40 stop and searches. A lot of it has been around drugs, which I know has been an issue. And we have seized over six vehicles, I believe, in terms of the various traffic offences. So in terms of when people tell us there's a problem, we have put the resources in and we are trying to make a big difference. Enforcement, though, only gets us so far, and that's why I would firmly go back to a point of we have to be part of the community, and it's about that multi-agency problem-solving approach. So I think a lot of you will know that a public space protection order has recently been granted, which covers lots of the areas around Hunters Road, Villa Road. That's something we're working with the council. All of the local officers have received training around collecting evidence, making sure we are actually looking at ensuring that council do the enforcement for street drinking, looking at tackling antisocial behaviour within the area. But again, it's one of those, that's a constant fight that we're going to have to sort of put in, but will be done in partnership with the council. Issues around HMOs, rubbish, street parking, we're quite limited around what we can actually realistically do to combat that. So I would really urge you to escalate that as much as possible to your local councillors and into the city council to try and challenge those. I would like to touch on some of the youth work that a number of people have mentioned. I think this is really important. One of the things I've done in my role is I've absolutely prioritised what we call SIPOs, our school intervention and prevention officers. I've made sure every single area has got 2 SIPOs that it should do across all of Birmingham West. Recently we did OPSEPTA. This is a national anti-knife crime initiative. We engaged with over 4,000 pupils across Birmingham, sort of trying to get them to divert away from a life which involves knife crime, that involves serious violence, talking about conflict resolution, all of the great stuff that I know members of the community have been doing. We're trying to enhance and push that message to young people as well. During that week as well, we recovered over 100 knives off the street, and again, we did between 20 and 30 arrests for knife crime offences. So it's something that we are looking at really prioritising and looking to try and tackle. So you mentioned about data in terms of criminality. Are they local, non-local? I don't have a specific breakdown of all the arrests. I know a lot of it is localised crime, but we are very conscious that because of some of the perception that it's easy to do drugs, it's easy to drug deal across this area, that we do get people coming into the area and they are exacerbating the crime issue. My real intention and mandate is to try and make this a hostile area for criminals. I don't want criminals to be able to operate so openly as what some people are reporting across Villa Road, Hunters Road and parts of the Soho Road. That's where all of that additionality is put in, and day by day we are getting some very positive results. And within those 3 weeks, we've had 5 custodial sentences already handed down. That work will continue. What I really don't want to do is sit here, give you sort of, this is my plan, we've delivered it, and then suddenly in a month's time, 2 months, 6 months, you go, where have the police gone? For me, it's all about that sustained commitment that the teams led by Gemma and Rob have got the resources, and we're constantly there to make life better and supporting yourselves as a community. We do have a new neighbourhood policing strategy, which is all about ring fencing local policing as far as possible. We can never dedicate 100%. You know, when we saw some of the serious disorder across the country over the summer, we obviously have an abstraction of policing. That's just the nature of day-to-day policing these days. But as far as possible, we're looking to make sure that you do get that community feel back. Our new website will have all of your community officers on there, their faces, their numbers, and the ability to contact the team direct and report a lot of the local-based crime. So you can report direct to the local teams. So I would encourage you to use that. Last, I'll finish on people when they used to pick up the phone to call the police, sometimes spend 30, 35, 40 minutes waiting on 101. That's not good enough. Our call handling performance has been one of the most improved nationally. Our average now, if you call 999, we'll pick up the phone in 4 seconds. If you call 101, we'll deal with that in 29 seconds. So we've made sure that as an organisation, our accessibility and how you contact us has improved dramatically. And we are seeing the benefits of that in terms of our response times, getting out to people who need us the most. I'd probably just summarise with, we often talk about, you know, where does the police fit within the community? Policing ultimately has to be with the community and not to the community. So thank you very much for the invitation today. I will make the commitment whilst I'm in this role, I will happily come to any further meetings and sit here and have that local accountability as the senior leader looking after local policing in Birmingham West. And you've got the investment of the teams in terms of we want to be part of the community, we want to be part of the solutions and work with everyone in this room to try and make it a better place for you to live. Because ultimately that's why I became a police officer. It doesn't matter where I am, I want to make life better for people. So thank you for sharing your feedback. We will continue to do our best to serve everyone here in this room.
Thank you very much. Don't worry about not being able to ask questions tonight, because I will tell you what the next steps are. And on another occasion, the meeting will be very different to this one. It's important we gather the information tonight. Please welcome our MP, Ayub Khan.
Thank you, gentlemen. Can I first of all thank Desmond and Maggie Denover, which are part of the Lozells Community Forum, for inviting me as a local MP for this constituency. I'd like to thank the police for being here also. I think it's important because the most important feedback that I get from the local community, and I live in Aston, I grew up in Aston, there's a number of faces here that know me really well. And I just look back at my area, which is no different to Lozells, because we've got a similar sort of demographic region with similar communities, similar issues. And so I'm very familiar with what the community has to go through on a day-by-day basis. And I look back at 2003, when I first stood as a local politician, a councillor in Aston. And in fact, it was during my election campaign that I had to administer first aid to a young man who had been shot several times. And the paramedics had arrived about 45 minutes later, said that if he hadn't received the first aid that you'd given him, he'd be dead. Those are skills that I learned back in the day when I was part of the Boy Scouts group. Some of the things that I went through on a personal basis, we're losing those types of services. And I look at the youth centres, for example. Very, very important in terms of shaping me as an individual. The people that were at the youth centre working with us still work with young people today. I don't know whether you've heard the name Fat Phil and people like that, which have been very instrumental in shaping the young generation that I grew up in. And so ultimately, from a community's point of view, a community must feel safe, irrespective of stats and numbers, just like Chief Inspector Robinson mentioned. You know, it's how the community feels. And I can tell you now that the community is not feeling safe. And the community is having to tailor its daily life, its daily routine to avoid problems, to avoid, for example, the gentleman talked about school children. I mean, I used to walk from Aston to Diston Manor School, which was quite a bit of a trek every day, and our parents weren't concerned. And we didn't have mobile phones in those days. It was just, there was a sense that you could make that journey and there wouldn't be a problem. And there wasn't. 5 years I went to Diston Manor School, as most people do in secondary schools, walking. Never once did I ever have a problem. And that has just completely gone in inner city areas. And it's not just limited to one problem. You know, many people think, well, actually, it may be new communities coming in, exempt properties, for example, vulnerable people that shouldn't be actually living amongst the community because their needs are so high, are just being dumped there. And by doing that, you're failing the community, but you're also failing that vulnerable individual. And as I say, you only have to go up any of the streets and you'll see that the types of people that are living in these accommodations, they're not getting the support that's necessary. And that's not a policing matter. It costs the taxpayer for the police to respond on some occasions, on multiple occasions on one night, because there's disorder in that one house. Drug dealing, it's a big issue. And there's, the officer know when I make the reference to the word cooking, where drug dealers actually start living in amongst vulnerable people because it's an easy place to stash your drugs, it's an easy place to operate from. It's easy to get some of these vulnerable people to go and sell. And that's just one aspect. But we're failing communities, even young children which have special needs at school. They're not getting the sort of support that they deserve. Young children that have ADHD are not getting support. And we look at what's going to happen with that generation. If they're not getting the support that they need now, they're coming to the community, and we've got major problems. And so resourcing, it's got everything to do with resourcing. But ultimately, it's choices that politicians need to make. And Ray, you said it right on. You know, politicians make choices. And if we've got money to spend in wars, and I raise that because, you know, we've been a blanket check when it comes to wars. Where are we raising the money from if we haven't got money? Ultimately, it comes down to choices, and senior politicians need to realize that these communities, which have become desensitized, let's face it, you know, this hall would be full of people if they felt that by coming here, they'd make a difference. This hall would be full. If you promise that people turn up and will make a difference, it would be packed. People have become desensitized because they say, and many people contacted me today in relation to this meeting, what's the point? Is anything really going to change? And that's the sense amongst the community. And as I say, it's not just one service. We're having youth centres cut. And youth centres are very important. I have given my personal experience, having gone through what I went back in the 1990s and you know, when I was a teenager. But they've been cut. The knock-on effect of that is going to be substantial, unimaginable, because the amount of young children that I see, that I live in Aston because I choose to live in Aston, just like many others that they take pride. I mean, I grew up in Aston, you know, I'm 51 years old and I spent 50.5 years in Aston because I came over from Pakistan at the age of 6 months. I've just grown up there. I love living in Aston. I know everybody in the area, not just in Aston, Lozells and around. And I'm not going to move. But one of the reasons why I choose not to move is not because I can't. I can. I do it because A, I've got a large family which live in and around the area. I've got local facilities, local friends. I grew up in the area. And I take pride in where I live. But fundamentally, we haven't got role models. And I'm a barrister by profession. And I go into local schools. I went to Holyhead School the other day, sixth form school, talking to young teenagers, our next generation. And you know, when I went into the classroom, it wasn't a classroom, it was a couple of hundred people actually, a couple of hundred students. And it's brilliant because when I went in there was a lot of chatter and, you know, how their young children behave and I'm not going to hear nothing new. And really, when I told them about my story, they were all silent. They were looking at me, listening to me with interest because I came from the hood, if you like, came from the local community, succeeded living in the local community. And so we want role models to remain in the area. And that's one of the big concepts I have. I know that we don't succeed, but that's what I'd like to see. People that succeed in life, because this is a brilliant era. I remember when I was a young kid, and we've got a bit of snow now, but I tell my kids, sat here in the front, I say, when we were young, we used to look through our bedroom window and we used to see the snow and we used to think, oh, brilliant, in the morning we'll go out and play in the morning. But when we'd come out in the morning, the whole street would be clear. The snow would be cleaned because every neighbour took pride in not just cleaning their frontage, but cleaning the footpath in front and the road as well. And everybody repeated that. And then the whole road, so we'd have to go to Aston Park. We still got our snowball fights in. But what I'm saying is that kind of proud community we haven't got, and we need to re-engage, and we need to reinvent, and we need to encourage people to participate. So in Aston, and I'm sure it'll happen in Lozells, we're looking at groups of people on each street, maybe 3, 4, who are doing street cleaning. And we've managed to get, a team of women mainly, but, we know that Lozells Mosque and other faith communities are doing something similar. And that's just trying to give the community a sense of belonging, a sense of being proud of the area. And I promise you, if you get 4 people on your street, cleaning that street, maybe once a month, and someone decides to tip something, you're going to be more proactive and say, hold on 1 second, this is our road, and people are taking time to clean this road. And I think we need to encourage more of that. I'm not going to take too much of your time, Desmond. I mean, I can go on for hours really with my life experience. Other than to say that as someone who represents the constituency, it's my responsibility, and I believe it's only right that I can attend as many meetings, because there's Aston resident meetings, and I will do as much as I can to support the communities, not coming from information that I'm getting from the community meetings, but from personal experience. When I open my front door, I see people selling drugs. And I can tell you now that whilst I accept and respect the officers saying that we need to make sure that we report these matters, very important, most people just want to get on with their life and not get involved. They're not interested, because they're thinking, why do I need to get involved? Why do I need to mention my name? I know you can ring Crime Stoppers and so forth, but there's this sense that nothing really happens. Just going to waste my time. I just want to go and do what I need to do, go back to my house and hope I don't come across any violence throughout the day. That's how people are feeling. And so we need to do whatever we can, and I will certainly lobby the people that we need to lobby to see if we can get additional resources, because I know the police officers are limited in terms of numbers. And it's not just, policing's changed over the last 15 years from one which was heavily involved in prevention, heavily involved, to one which is now almost reaction. And we know that that's going to cost far more than if we start employing preventative measures across a multifaceted of service providers, because it's not just one provider. We have to have a joint up approach where we're tackling all of the issues that we know that exist, and it's only for teamwork and the communities working together that we can achieve that. So let's work together to see how we can improve our areas. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, both of you. We're now fast approaching 8:30. I know they're coming back to Lockton Central shortly. So, in conclusion for tonight, just to let you know, we've got community forums in the area. We've got one in South Aston, which will be online next year. We've got one in North Aston. We've got one here in Lozells. We've got community forums in Newtown. The work has already started, but the work is not valued by those in authorities, respectfully. Because if it was really valued, they would be helping to resource people locally. We've got various plans to even employ an area caretaker, but it falls on deaf ears because we know that antisocial behaviour increases in areas where you get fly tipping, in areas where people feel that you don't care, the residents don't care. I heard some say, well, the residents need to take pride. Trust me, chairing Lozells Community Forum, and as soon as fly tipping comes up, you know, I want to leave the room because you get bombarded with it. That's a problem, isn't it? Because people can't see things being done. In Newtown, the chairs, they're able to get onto refuse carriers. But as soon as they clear the rubbish, the fly tippers are so clever now. As soon as they clear it, guess what happens? They go back again because they said you'll get cleared. So it's a vicious circle. But then what they don't realise, the drug dealers and the people committing antisocial behaviour that leads to knife crime will go into these areas and do what they do because they say, it's safer down there. I used to live not far from this gentleman in the next road. He lives, everyone knows you live in Albert Road, so he lives in Albert Road. I used to live in Frederick Road. I don't anymore because my wife decided when we got married, she wanted to live elsewhere. But even where I live, my house was burgled the day I was laying my mother to rest a few weeks ago. They thought it was funny to go into my house and burgle it while I'm doing her funeral. We all have our issues all over the place. The point that I'm making is this. I personally could walk away from Lozells tomorrow morning. But I've hung around for so long, people don't even know where I live because I care. So one thing I can assure you tonight, next steps, we'll collate all of that. I will arrange to sit down with our MP to go through it. I will then take that to the Police and Crime Commission and the Council. We'll give it to our MP as well, and Police and Crime Commissioner and West Midlands Police. We will be reconvening here on Thursday, the 9th of January at 7 o'clock. That will be part 2 of this meeting. That'll be where we'll be giving you the feedback. We will invite back the police, our MP. We will challenge the councillors to attend, and you will then be able to question them about what is happening. What are you going to do about this? We're going to collate the plan. We're going to give it to you. That's why your email address is important. Because once we find out, and we're not going to find, once we've got it in draft form, we want to send it to you. We want you to feed back to us and tell you if you think it's rubbish, or you're saying, well, you're only writing your plan without putting anything in that we've said. Does that make sense? So one thing I'll urge you tonight, if you've not put your email address down there, please put it down there because it's important. Because on the 9th of January, you can have a look at it. We would have already sent it into the authorities, and this will go to the authorities within the next 14 days. We'll collate it, gives me time to have a chat with our MP, and we make sure we've got the language right, and that will go into all of the authorities. And I'm going to leave it there this evening, apart from thank you all for coming. Thursday, the 9th of January, back here at LRG, 7 o'clock. And if you care, you will return. All right? Challenge we put to everybody. God bless you and have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.